in Calcutta, which Saradananda had built for her. For several years, I cherished a deep yearning to meet a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. As I lived in East Bengal, this longing was not fulfilled. But in the winter of 1915, when Maharaj Swami Brahmanandaji visited Dhaka, where I was a student, in the company of Swamis Premananda, Shankarananda, Ambikananda, Madhavananda, Mohin Babu, that was the brother of Vivekananda, and several other members of the Ramakrishna order, this dream was fulfilled. I earnestly requested Baburam Maharaj's permission to visit the Belar Mat during the vacation of 1916. He graciously gave his consent. I was given the privilege of spending some time at the Mat. During that period, I must have met Swami Saradananda, but I do not recall any particular conversation with him. In 1916, I was arrested with my association with the Bengal Revolutionary Movement and put in a concentration camp for about 2 years. I was released in 1918, just before the First World War was over. I came to Calcutta and went to the Udbodhan to pay my respects to Holy Mother. She had not been keeping well, and no visitors were allowed. Probably I should explain many of the young Bengalis at that time were followers of Subhash Ghosh, and they were fighting for Indian independence from the British. And quite a few of the young men who became monks of the order, had been kind of revolutionaries, not super active, but Nikhilananda evidently was arrested and put in the concentration camp. In fact, all of them that I know of, the time when they met the monks of the order, they dropped all revolutionary ideas and decided they would seek God rather than, that was the real freedom, not India's freedom. So, Holy Mother had not been keeping well and no visitors were allowed. Either Swami Arupananda or Swami Anubhavananda spoke to Swami Saradananda about my eager desire to take the dust of Holy Mother's feet. And the Swami graciously gave his permission, asking me to spend only a few minutes with her. One of the mother's disciples, Surendra Kaur of Vishnupur, who had been my fellow detainee in Kagdweep, had committed suicide, unable to bear the restrictions of the concentration camp. When I told Holy Mother this sad incident, she said in an anguished voice, "O Lord, how long will you put up with the iniquities of the present government?" At that time, I was on the staff of the Smrita Bazar Patrika and lived in Bagh Bazar. I have no idea what the Smrita Bazar Patrika is. Generally on Tuesdays and Saturdays, I visited the Udbodhan to pay my respects to Holy Mother and to Swami Saradanandaji. I do not remember any special conversation with the Swami during these visits. During that period, I would sit with Sri Maharaj as often as I could at the house of Balaram Bose. That's with Swami Brahmananda. In the summer of 1921, I went to Mayavati. That's a hill station where they do publications, with Swamis Shuddhananda, Madhavananda, and Vireshwarananda as a guest of the ashram. Swami Yutishwarananda joined us later and became the editor of the Prabhupada Bharata. After several weeks, Swami Madhavananda one day asked me to write an English life of Sri Ramakrishna, as there was no complete life of the Master available at that time. There were many non-Bengali speaking devotees of the Master, not only in India, but also abroad. All my pleas about my inability for such a task were brushed aside. I then drafted manuscript, which was thoroughly revised by Swami Madhavananda. Most of the material of the manuscript was taken from Swami Saradananda's classic work, Ramakrishna Lila Prasanga, what we know as the Great Master, not the Gospel, which did not contain, however, the Master's life at Kasipur Garden. I collected that material from several Bengali books. The manuscript was completed in 1923. I believe I came down to Calcutta in order to read the last chapter to Swami Saradananda for any necessary correction. Two things I recall in this connection. In one place, I had mentioned that the Master referred to Swami Saradananda as the embodiment of Ganesha. I think this was due to my imagination, pure imagination, because of the fact of the Swamis having written his classic Lila Prasanga, a true landmark in the Bengali literature. The Swami corrected me. He said that Ramakrishna had asked him to regard himself as Sri Ramakrishna's Shakti. The other incident was about the dying moments of the Master. I wrote that the disciples present in the room had plunged into a sea of sorrow. The Master's body was a mere skeleton covered with skin. Sanyal Mahashaya, Vaikuntanath Sanyal, said that when the Master breathed his last, the whole room was filled with celestial light. The Swami, who was also a matter-of-fact man and disliked any unnecessary emotion, said that they did not see any light, as all of them were grief-stricken. I remember another incident which he told me. On the Kalpatara day, many of the disciples who were in the Kasipur garden were in ecstasy as the Master bestowed upon them his blessings. I asked Swami Saradananda what he was doing at the time and whether he had witnessed the great event. He said, in a matter-of-fact way, that he was tidying the Master's room and saw the incident through the window, but did not feel like going there, because such an experience was not at all new to him. He had been living very closely with the Master. When the life of Sri Ramakrishna was published, Swami Madhavananda asked me to personally present the first copy to Swami Saradanandaji. We both went to the Udbodhan. It happened to be the Swami's birthday. He was pleased to see the book and said that he himself had desired to write an English biography of the Master, who evidently had wanted the book to be written by someone else. At Mayavadi, I often listened to the senior Swamis telling of the rare blessings which some of them felt when serving a direct disciple of the Master. Inwardly, I felt sad that I had not been fortunate enough to be chosen to live with any of the Master's disciples. I often prayed that I might be able to live with at least one of them. At long last, my desire was fulfilled. Swami Madhavanandaji sent me on a tour to Rajputana, Gujarat, Kathiawar, and the United Provinces to give lectures and also collect funds and subscribers for the Hindi magazine Samanvaya, which he had recently started. After spending about 11 months on this tour, during which I had met a number of Maharajas and other dignitaries, I returned to the Calcutta branch of the Advaita Ashram. Advaita Ashram is the publishing center, which was then located at Shankar Ghosh Lane. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Swami Madhavanandaji asked me to go at once to the Udbodhan to pay my respect to Swami Saradanandaji, who would be leaving for Benares the next evening. Swami Saradananda had visited Kathiawar and Gujarat many times before and asked me about my experiences. Suddenly, he told me he would go to Benares the next day and would I like to accompany him. I could hardly believe my ears, because this was the dream I had so long cherished. But I told him that I should ask permission of Swami Madhavananda, as I was then a worker of the Advaita ashram. He told me not to bother about it, and asked Swami Sambhidananda, who was to be the leader of Swamiji's attendants, to purchase a ticket to Benares for me. I returned to the Advaita ashram and reported the matter to Swami Madhavananda. He was very annoyed, as he had planned to start an ashram at Rajkot with me as its leader. He hurried to the Abodan to cancel the plan. Swami Saradananda said to him that I could go to Rajkot in January after Swamiji's birthday. I accompanied Swami Saradananda to Benares with several other attendants. This was perhaps the happiest period of my life. My principal duties were to clean his room and wash his dishes and clothes. We all lived on the second floor of Kiran Babu's house in Benares. The attendants occupied the first room, Swami Saradananda and Sanyal Mahashai, the middle room, and the ladies who accompanied us, the last room. I recall several events that happened during that period of time. One day, one of the ladies who served the dinner gave me 2 or 3 luchis, and I told her that I could not eat any more. The Swami said, "Look at his stamina. He cannot digest more than 3 luchis." Then he told us that during the days of his austerities at Rishikesh, he used to get 17 or 18 heavy chapatis by begging. "How can you meditate if you eat so lightly?" he asked. Kind of the opposite of what most of us hear, right? One day he asked me to give him a massage. As my hands perspire, Swami Aseshananda was asked to stroke his body. It saddened me to be deprived of such a great privilege. One day I was asked to prepare his tobacco. At that time I did not smoke, so I did not prepare his tobacco properly. He said to me, "If you want to prepare tobacco properly for me, you yourself should learn to smoke." So I stealthily started smoking. After supper, the Swami generally enjoyed a few puffs only, but I could put a large quantity of tobacco in the clay pot. He scolded me for wasting the tobacco, but the next day I put the same quantity in the pot, and again he reprimanded me. I asked him to smoke as much as he wanted. He understood then that we were eager for his prasad. After that, he would ask me to take the hubble bubble after he had finished smoking. So they all smoked off the same amount of tobacco. It was in the pot, and the air hose came up, and they would never touch. Their lips would never touch the same thing. So many people could smoke the same hubble bubble. One day, I said to Swami Saradananda that sometimes I felt like going to Rishikesh to lead a contemplative life. He discouraged me with the remark that he himself had lived that kind of life for several years and then became secretary of the Ramakrishna Mission after his return from America. He lived over here for a little while. Ever since, he had been very active in the arduous work of the mission, but he said that he did not feel that his new activities had any less spiritual value than his austerities in the Himalayas. I began to argue and said, "But you had gone to the Himalayas to lead a contemplative life." Immediately answered, "If you felt the yearning which I felt before I went to the Himalayas, you would not have asked my permission. You would have gone without asking me." Several years later, I asked him what should be my main spiritual discipline. Should I carry on Swamiji's work or lead a meditative life? I reminded him that Sri Ramakrishna had often told his principal disciples the particular kind of spiritual discipline they should practice. Looking at me for a few minutes, he said, "I don't think you should try to practice exclusive meditation. Try to combine work with contemplation. Got a very definitive answer right there, usually not quite so quickly. It was a cold afternoon. There was a drizzle. The Swami had gone to visit the temple of Vishwanath. I was alone in the house. One Swami from the Advaita ashram came to our place and said to me, "Have a bucket of hot water in the bathroom. Swami is slightly rheumatic. I will refresh him to wash his hands and feet with, it will refresh him to wash his hands and feet with warm water." The attendants of Sri Maharaj always kept hot water for him on cold days for washing his hands and feet. Now Maharaj is Brahmananda. I kept a bucket of hot water in the bathroom. After his return, he used the water, and I'm sure enjoyed it. Then he asked me who put the water there. I said I had done so. He asked me the reason for it. I said because it was a cold evening, and added foolishly that the attendants of Sri Maharaj always did the same for him during cold days. He became very angry and said, "I see, you want to put me on the same level with Maharaj." I felt piqued and went to my room and shut the door. I sat with my back to the door, feigning meditation. In a few moments, the Swami gently opened the door and asked me in a sweet voice if I would prepare for him a cup of coffee. My anger melted away. Then he gave me a betel leaf to chew. I noticed similar incidences at other times and felt that perhaps that was one of the ways the disciples of the Master gave their blessing to the devotees. Swami Vivekananda's birthday arrived and a public meeting was arranged at the Advaita ashram, which would be addressed by different speakers in English, Hindi, and Bengali. Swami Saradananda would preside. I did not go to the meeting as I was busy with some household duties at Kiran Babu's house. I was boiling milk when one Swami came there quickly and said that the English speaker could not come to the meeting on account of some unavoidable reason, and Swami Saradananda wanted me to give the English speech, as there were some English people among the audience who did not know Hindi or Bengali. I was completely unprepared for the occasion. But because of the Swami's order, I came to the meeting and told him about my extreme nervousness about speaking in English, but he insisted. I began my talk mentioning the 3 evil legacies of the British rule in India, which Swami Vivekananda wanted to remove. These were the Bible, the bottle, and the battalion. By way of explaining these rather strong legacies, I said the Bible stood for the Christian religion, the bottle for Western materialism, and the battalion for the British military power. I was told that my remarks made quite a sensation, not only among the audience, but the whole town. Naturally, the few English missionaries present there were furious. They particularly resented my coupling together the Bible and the bottle. They wrote a strong letter to the head of the local Ramakrishna Seva ashram. At the request of Swami Saradananda, who had read the letter, I wrote to the missionary gentleman about the high veneration in which we held Jesus Christ, and I wanted personally to discuss the matter with him. He was not pacified. However, he said he would be glad to see me, but any conversation on the subject must be preceded by an apology from me to Christ, whom I had insulted by associating the Bible with the bottle. Several letters passed between us, and then Swami Saradananda said to me they were very bigoted Christians and asked me to forget the whole matter. During the presidential speech, but you see, they didn't forget the matter until he had made every effort to reconcile the situation. So when Nikhilananda had made every effort to reconcile the situation, discuss it, tell them their veneration, and they still wouldn't accept a reconciliation, then it's okay, leave it. During the presidential speech, I saw Swami Saradananda pausing at least 3 times in the course of his talk for brief moments. Later, when I asked them the reason for it, he said that while he was talking, he vividly saw the master standing there and was overcome. Here I recall an incident which shows Swami Saradananda's wonderful patience. He used to spend a long time in the morning in meditation in Puri and at the Udbodhan. Then he would appear like a statue. One morning, Swami Shubhananda, the head of the local Seva ashram, came to our house when Swami was meditating and said that the secretary of the Seva ashram was very eager to see the Swami. I told him I could not possibly disturb his meditation, but he said the matter was very urgent. Furthermore, the secretary, being unwell, could not come to Kiran Babu's house, and that Swami had to go to the Seva ashram, which was about 10 minutes away. I didn't know what to do. I stood at the door of the Swami's room. Sanyal Mahashai was also meditating after a fashion, sitting on his bed right in front of the door. The Swami was seated on his bed on the left side of the room near the wall. One could not see him from the door without craning his neck. As I stood there, Sanyal Mahashai opened his eyes and asked me by a sign what I wanted. I pointed to the Swami. He sternly asked me to go away. But Swami Shuddhananda was insistent that the Swami must see the secretary. After 2 or 3 attempts, I stood at the door of the Swami's room and said that I must speak to him. The Swami opened his eyes and asked me what the matter was. I told him about the secretary's wish. He said, they won't allow me to meditate peacefully. He asked me to bring in the secretary. I said that he was unwell and that the Swami would have to go to the Seva ashram. Even now, as I recall the incident, I feel my heart palpitate at my temerity to disturb the Swami's meditation. I am active by nature. One day, Swami Saradananda said to me, "It is good to be active, but it depends on several factors. Your health must be good, and you must be able to get along with fellow workers. But suppose you have injured one of your limbs, then it would be difficult for you to work. Therefore, I request you to cultivate the habit of reading. Even that is not enough. Suppose you become blind. Therefore, it is good that you also practice meditation, so that if you cannot read or work, at least you can meditate." At Kiran Babu's house, the great master was read aloud in the presence of Swami Saradananda, who now and then answered questions. It was really an unforgettable experience. Generally in the evenings, the Swamis and Brahmacharis of the Seva ashram and Advaita ashram would come to Kiran Babu's house to pay their respects to Swami Saradananda. Most of the time they sat quietly. One day the Swami said, "Why don't you ask some questions?" Still they sat quiet. Then he said to someone, "Ask Nikhilananda to come. He may have some questions." I remember one day I said, "We have the blessings of the Master. Otherwise, we could not embrace the monastic life. We have your blessings also. But as for myself, I don't have any spiritual experience." Swami said in reply, "You will feel the effect of the Master's blessings at the hour of death, if not earlier. But you must seek the result now. You must work hard." And I think we'll stop there this evening. We'll still be reading next week this. And I think next week we might finish. Any questions on what we've read so far? Everyone knows who Swami Nikhilananda is. He's the translator of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. When he came to the United States, he wrote the whole thing, translated it from the Bengali. No questions, no comments. Hi, Lido. Okay, we have announcements to make. Saturday is Karma Yoga Day. We are inviting everyone to Karma Yoga if you're in town. Please come. It starts at 9 o'clock, 9:15. Come to the convent and check in. We'll have a list of jobs, and we'll have people ready to work with you. If it's too hot, we won't be outside. If it's not hot in the morning, we may be outside for a while. As it heats up, we'll be inside. And then we stop the active work if we're finished at noon so people can come and sit and meditate in the temple. Worship is going on down in the shrine, and then we'll all have lunch together at 1. Saturday evening, we'll have the gospel reading here with Swami Brahmananda, and so you're all welcome to come. It's at 5 o'clock here in the temple. And Sunday, I can't even say it, the lecture will be Just Do It. Now, this cracked up Mahayogananda this last Sunday. He said, I just gave the whole talk on surrender, and you're going to talk on Just Do It. So we'll see what happens. Okay. And if there are no questions or comments, we'll end. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat, Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Good to see you all.